my time would be wasted. They got nothing on you, baby. Yeah. Nothing on you. Nothing on you, babe. Nothing on you. I know you feel where I'm coming from. Regardless of the things in my past that I've done. Most of it really was for the hell of the fun. On a carousel, so around I spun. With no direction, just trying to get some. Trying to chase skirts, living in the summer sun. And so I lost more than I had ever won. And honestly, I ended up with none. There's so much nonsense, it's on my conscience. I'm thinking maybe I should get it out. And I don't want to sound redundant, but I was wondering if there was something that you want to know. But never mind that, we should let it go. Cause we don't want to be a TV episode. And all the bad thoughts, just let it go. Go. Beautiful girls all over the world. I could be chasing, but my time would be wasted. They got nothing on you. Nothing on you, babe. Nothing on you. Nothing on you. Nothing on you, babe. Nothing on you. They might say hi, and I might say hey, but you shouldn't worry about what they say, cause they got nothing on you. Nothing on you, babe. Nothing on you. Nothing on you. Nothing on you, babe. Nothing on you. Hands down, there will never be another one. I've been around and I never seen another one. Because your style ain't really got nothing on.
Testing.
When you ain't got nothing on, baby, you the whole package. Plus you pay your taxes and you keep it real while the mothers stay plastic. Till my Wonder Woman call me Mr. Fantastic. Stop.
Hey. I think we're a little live right now.
You think so?
I think so. What's going on? Good morning.
Good morning. I don't hear myself.
You don't hear yourself? Why don't you hear yourself?
I
I don't know. But good morning, because, yeah. Good morning.
1 2 1 2. There we go.
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing myself.
Yeah. How are you this morning?
I'm pretty well. How about you?
Good. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Say Less.
Where we do what?
We keep it a buck. We keep
All
it 100.
day, a day.
Yes, we keep it 100 all day, every day, day.
Yes.
I am your resident nurse, Shar.
Shaw.
And who we got here with me?
We got Confinci and Simi, your trainer's favorite trainer.
Yes.
Down at your Mans and them.
Mm-hmm.
When you want to get your fitness, your program right, come see me.
Yes. What's the address?
1714 16th Street South. Sunny side of South St. Petersburg. Say that 3 times
Yes,
quick.
the sunny side of South St. Petersburg. The sunny side of South St.
Yeah.
And St. Petersburg is pretty sunny and nice.
Yeah.
If you're just tuning in, if you're new to our show, you can tune in different ways. You can tune in live on Facebook. You can download that Power Plug Radio app on Google or iPhone. You can visit our website, www.powerplugradio.com. You can also, okay, so this mic is like acting really funky. You can also follow us on YouTube. We have a YouTube station. So yeah, there's
Everywhere.
that too.
We everywhere.
We are everywhere. Let me fix my mic.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So today we are tackling, what are we tackling today?
We tackling childhood obesity.
Childhood obesity. Hey, we got a phone number. Where's this phone? Hold on.
That phone number out there.
Yeah, we got a phone number. If you want to call us and chat with us and talk a little bit about or weigh in on this topic, the phone number is 727-686-0512. And you can call us and chime in about childhood obesity, a very, very, very important topic.
Very important.
And if you have some comments or questions or anything like that, just hit us up. So, I always like to start off with a little bit of stats.
Of course you do.
Of course I do.
As you should.
As I should. So, just talking about just the prevalence or the amount of childhood obesity in the United States, which, we've tackled a lot of topics so far.
Yes, we have.
We've tackled sexual health. I think we're going to circle back around to that. And you know, a lot of these topics I feel like we're going to circle back around because there's so much to talk about. There's so much to unpack. There's so much to dive into.
Absolutely.
We tackled
And they're
the
all
Chronics.
related, too.
Yeah, we tackled the Chronics.
Yes.
Volume 1. And so now we're on childhood obesity. We got some other things and if you have some ideas for some show topics, let us know too.
Absolutely.
I think we might have just like a show where we just have call-ins.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's do that one day.
Things that, people want us to take a deep dive in.
Yeah, for sure. So today we're going to tackle, or at least begin to talk about, childhood obesity. It's a serious problem in the U.S. Where we probably have one of the growing numbers of people with obesity.
True.
In the United States.
True.
And childhood obesity is a serious problem in the United States, and it puts a lot of children and adolescents at risk for poor health as adults. And when they talk about among children and adolescents, we're talking about those aged 2 to 19. I'm sorry. And about 18.5% of children and adolescents have are considered obese in the United States. But of course, we're going to talk a little bit about the disparities.
Yeah, we got to get
childhood obesity is more common among certain groups of populations. So Hispanics and non-Hispanic blacks have a higher obesity prevalence than non-Hispanic white children. And non-Hispanic Asian children have a lower obesity prevalence than non-Hispanic blacks and Hispanic children. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about the socioeconomic piece of it. Because, like everything that we talk about, whenever we talk about health and the disparities, and I talked to you guys about this last week about the disparities, meaning that the amount of disease or the number of cases are overrepresented by a population that is not the majority, right? So it's probably more than you probably would anticipate. So let's just say that if everything was fair, right?
Right.
And equal, you would have the same number or the same percentage. So let's just say it was 2%, right? So 2% across the board. 2% across the board.
Right.
If we were talking about fair and equitable, right? I just said 2%.
Right. We're just throwing that number out there.
But when you have a greater percentage among a smaller group,
what does that mean?
That's a disparity.
That is a disparity.
That means something isn't right.
Something is awry.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about childhood obesity. I'm gonna kick it off to you.
Kick it off to me.
And see, give me your thoughts on childhood obesity.
Well, I'm glad you hit us with some statistics, and I like to bring it back around to the things that are related to childhood obesity. For instance, I remember, I'm a man of a certain age. I remember growing up playing outside, right? After school, mom's telling, don't come back in the house unless you're going to stay in the house, right? And childhood obesity wasn't really talked about that much that I recall growing up. And we played outside, we played hard, we played all kind of games. Somebody call in with a childhood game that you played when you growing up. If you don't mind telling your age, I played hot peas and butter.
Hot peas and butter. If that ain't telling your age, hot peas and butter. I haven't heard that.
Red light, green light, 1, 2, 3.
I remember that. Mother, may I?
In the Bronx, we played Scalzi. Crazy. I mean, handball. We outside. It was just, so anyway, and then I can recall something coming along that almost hit us like a pandemic, high fructose corn syrup.
What is that? Talk to me about the high fructose corn syrup.
It's an artificial sweetener that's added to just about every and anything that we consume. I'm talking about ketchup, potato chips, things that you wouldn't even think had sugar added to them. Artificial sugar, which is, there's been studies out there, and talking about the relationship between childhood obesity and the connection between high fructose corn syrup, because it's in everything. It's cheap. Mm-hmm. It's in abundance, and when you're talking about social economic, when you're talking about capitalism, the thing is, profit is above people. Mm-hmm. So if I have a company and I'm mass producing something, I want to make sure I can make it in the cheapest way and the most abundant way as possible.
Agreed.
High fructose corn syrup is the lick for them. It is the lick. It's in everything. It is addictive.
It is.
These people who
it's like nicotine.
It is. They should be going to jail for being the biggest drug dealers out there.
Right.
You understand? And so as a result, our children are suffering. They're not just suffering, physically, but even emotionally, even behaviorally in school. The school lunches are laden with this stuff. The milks, the frozen foods that they get in school. This is what our developing children are getting.
Agreed.
And so we'll talk a little more about. I got some notes on high fructose corn syrup and stuff that we've talked about that begins with the pound sign or the number sign, red, yellow dye, red dye, these kind of stuff, and how that affects us, especially our growing children.
Well, I'm gonna say this because you kind of you gave a story about your growing up and you being a kid growing up, and I would say that my generation, which is probably like the generation right after yours,
right?
I think that we were kind of like the first and the last of a lot of different things, right?
That's a fact.
We were the last of the go outside group.
That's a fact.
Because I was a go outside kid.
Yeah.
And you tried not to go into the house because, if you went into the house too many times, it's going to make you stay in the house.
A wrap.
I was the last of the, staying inside was punishment.
That's a fact.
Like, that was my punishment. I couldn't go outside. Now, I could watch TV if I wanted to. Right. I could sit in the house and play with my dolls and do anything I wanted to do in the house.
But who wanted to do that?
Going outside was the punishment. I could sit in the house and talk on the phone with somebody up the block from me if I wanted to, but everybody was outside. Wasn't nobody inside to be talking on the phone.
Going outside was the lick.
Right. But I was also, my generation was also the first of the video gamers.
That's a fact.
The first of those who had reasons to be inside because, we were the Atari and the Nintendo kids.
You said Atari?
I said Atari. I had an Atari, Sega, Nintendo. We were the first of that group. So there was a transition in the 80s from the go outside to the stay inside, or the options for staying inside.
Right.
So, I think there was like a transition there where, there was more reason to stay inside as the kids, as we started going into the late 80s and the 90s. There was like this transition of kids.
You're going to get me on my conspiracy thing in a minute.
Well, go ahead. Get on your conspiracy thing now.
I mean, high fructose corn syrup, reasons to stay inside, video game, the video game developers, the high fructose corn syrup developers, kids lazy, they're within arm's reach, video games. Why go outside?
Why go outside? But that was also, like, I remember back then also, TV changed, right? So, like, we had, I'm not even gonna lie, when I was growing up, I had a tube TV. We all had tube TVs, the ones that you turned the little knob on. Exactly. And we had certain stations. You had channel 2, you had channel 5, we had channel 7, we had channel 9, and we had channel 11.
You named them all.
That was it.
That was
and
it.
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. That was all we had.
I wasn't too far from you.
Right. So that's all we had growing up was those channels. And I remember
Damn,
it was
named
like,
all the channels, son.
that was it. That's all you had.
That's
all you had. And then I remember like cable came out, but at the first all you can get was like HBO. So I remember at one point I think my mom had HBO, but that wasn't nothing for me.
Right, exactly.
It wasn't until the early, and I'm gonna say this because, and maybe my household, because of, you know, socioeconomic reasons, we were kind of late to the game when it came to cable. But I really don't remember us getting cable until like the early 90s.
Son.
And I remember when I first discovered the Cartoon Network. Ooh. And I was like, so they just gonna play cartoons all day long?
All day.
Like, I was just
all
like
day.
in awe. And I remember calling my cousin and being like, yo, they got a station that just play cartoons all day long.
Cartoons.
Like,
son, why go outside?
Wait,
son?
why wait till Saturday mornings to catch your cartoons when you can catch them all day long?
Anytime you want to.
Things started to change. I mean, you know, you had the MTV, you had, but like I said, my family kind of came late until we didn't really get cable like that until like over all these channels until like probably like 1990, I think it was. Wow, like 1989, like 1990, like 1990 was probably when we.
You lucky, son.
Because I mean, other than that, it was no need. Everybody was, hell, my mom, when she was in the house, she even to this day, my mom watched the news and a few little stations. My mom don't even watch all of that. And I was outside. I mean, my sibling, we was outside. So there was no need for that.
I ain't have cable till I was grown with kids, son.
Listen.
Word to mother, son. You lucky.
Well, I mean, that's probably around the same time.
Oh, you got jokes. You got jokes.
I mean, you know, in hindsight, jokes. It might have been within the same time periods.
Nah, son.
Nah, son. It might have been.
Nah, son. We not going to even. Go ahead, son. Keep going with the.
I'm just saying it might have been because when I was like
son.
10, you was probably like.
Keep going with the story, son. All day Cartoon Network. What else, son?
But what I'm saying is there was like a transition of time. And I think that kind of along the lines of your conspiracy, I don't really want to say that it's a conspiracy.
Yeah. I just want to say
but because I think that there's a lot of truth to it. But what I don't think is I don't think that these things were necessarily designed with the end result in mind. I'm going back to your original thought that these things were designed with the idea that we're going to get as much money and capitalize as much as possible off of these things.
That's a fact.
Same thing with cigarettes and nicotine. Same thing with, you know, like you said, the high fructose corn syrup.
Alcohol, right.
Like, we're going to capitalize off of these things. Now, the fallout is now you have childhood obesity.
Right. Great.
And childhood obesity leads to adult obesity in a lot of cases, because we talked about this last week with the chronics, how you have, you know, lifestyle situations that lead you to these chronics.
That's a fact.
And so the childhood obesity is the, you know, lifestyle situations that lead to adult obesity.
That's a fact.
That is a fact. We got Darius tuning in. Darius says that Sega was the
We got Shanique tuning in as well. Hey, Shanique.
Childhood obesity. So let me take a little dive into the obesity, the socioeconomic part of it.
Shall we?
And anybody that wants to chime in, call in, participate in this conversation, tell us about, you know, your thoughts and theory on childhood obesity, or even how we as a people sort of get past that. Because I read the stats to you that more black and brown kids at a higher rate suffer from childhood obesity. And I'm gonna give you some of my theories, but I'm a touch a little bit on the obesity and the socioeconomic. So basically, the prevalence of obesity decreased. So overall stats, when we look at overall stats of childhood obesity, they found that the prevalence or the occurrence of obesity had decreased with the increase in level of education in the household, among the head of the household, and children in that household between the age of 2 and 19. So education, that's one of our social determinants of health, right?
Okay, yep.
Obesity prevalence was 18.9% among children and adolescents in the lowest of socioeconomic group, 19% among middle income group, and 10% among the highest income group, which is a little strange.
It is a little strange because it's not that big of a difference.
Well, the 18 and 19%, so between the lowest and the middle, isn't a lot, but I think that speaks to the fact that there isn't a whole lot of difference between those groups, because at the end of the day, even though you might consider yourself middle income, there still might be things that you can't afford.
That's
when
true.
it comes to good nutrition.
That's true.
And I think that speaks to that.
That's true.
Or even that you sort of feel like you can, sort of dibble and dabble in some other extra niceties. Right. So that's an interesting point.
You don't have time. Mm-hmm. You know, you're the breadwinner in the house. You're single. You don't have time to cook. So stopping off at a fast food spot may be more convenient. So you think,
right,
may be more convenient for you.
Right. Or if you're middle income, that might mean that you're working a lot more, so you have less time.
Right.
To cook those meals.
Right.
Right.
So yeah. Right. It could
middle income don't mean that you got one job that's really paying you well.
No, it doesn't.
It could mean that you have several jobs.
Exactly.
That combined are paying you in a way that can allow you to, raise your living standards a little bit. But you have to do that.
But you have to. If you miss a beat on either one,
mm-hmm,
you can fall
right. You're still one paycheck away,
exactly.
Right? So I think that's an interesting stat. But we always talk about this. So there's always that context of social economics, and there's always that context of environment that I think that plays into that. As far as obesity or even just health issues, when we talk about health issues.
Absolutely. I have a interesting abstract from PubMed about is there a connection between high fructose corn syrup beverages and do they cause obesity in children? So they're basically saying consumption of high fructose corn syrup beverages has increased since the 1970s. I was talking about.
Yep.
Wasn't really hearing a whole lot about that when I was growing up, right? At the same time, childhood obesity is on the rise. You see what they're saying? So they're saying at the same time, right, it's on the rise, causing children to be at risk of heart disease, diabetes, and other diseases. Healthcare providers have attributed childhood obesity to the consumption of high fructose corn syrup in the form of beverages, right? So they go on to talk about, because it's a long, lengthy article, they go on to talk about the milk in school, right? And I believe we talked about this some time ago about the big pushback that Michelle Obama got for trying to change the food, the menus in the schools.
Right.
I mean, who would want to push back on that except for big capitalism, right? And when it comes to, bringing the best and healthiest foods to our babies and our growing minds in school. But again, this is about profit. This is not about people, But it's interesting because one of the gold standards on measuring a nation's health is how well they treat their children. All their children. And when you think about America versus other countries, this is supposed to be the most industrialized nation. And when you look at healthcare and how they treat its citizens, especially its babies, it's appalling.
And we're supposed to be one of the most developed countries, but I also feel like we've fallen victim to and I'm just going to say this out loud, to being used by our government. And this was one of the documentaries that really kind of, that and Knives Over Fork. Knives Over Fork and What the Health are really the documentaries that really kind of pushed me over the edge when it came to my meat consumption. Mm-hmm. And What the Health, I think a little bit more than Knives Over Fork. Knives Over Fork. So if you're interested in watching a good documentary, if you got time, Knives Over Fork really just talks a lot about the benefits of plant-based eating, and they follow like several people, and it's really more study related, and they just kind of talk about the history of how plant-based eating has changed a lot of people's lives, right?
Correct.
What the Health on the other end really dives into the capitalism and the promotion of certain things that certain health foods, or certain foods as a benefit more to big corporation than to ourselves. And they dive into, this guy really went on a crusade, and he was looking at the fact that, okay, you have organizations like the American Heart Association, American Cancer Society, American Diabetes Association. You have all of these associations that, on their website. Let's just take the American Cancer Society, or let's just say American Heart Association, where they have diets and foods on their website that they promote that, some of these foods, like they said, he went to one of them and said, well, why would you promote, have foods on here promoting certain meat products, promoting certain, food products that are known carcinogens?
Absolutely.
Why would you promote, we're talking about, let's just talk about milk. We're the only species that drinks another species' milk.
That's a fact.
Why are we drinking a cow's milk? Why?
Cow's milk is for cow babies, right?
Cow milk is for cow babies. But from the time that your child, as a mom, I know this, and it's so funny because I remember, you wait for that 1 year mark, right? Because that 1 year mark is when your child should be drinking whole milk, because they say it has enough for the fats to get the...
It's on the food chart, right?
It's on the food chart. So, at 1 year old is when your child should be now drinking whole milk. Why? At 1 year, does a calf now drink human milk?
Absolutely not.
Right. But these things are promoted by, big corporation. He also, in that, and What the Health is what I'm talking about. They also dive into how a lot of these companies are really part of lobbying groups. And it's all about the money, we're going to promote the cattle company. So if the cattle company is in the American Cancer Society's pocket, that means the American Cancer Society is going to promote meat products.
This is a fact.
If the milk company and the farmers are in the American Heart Association's pocket, that means the American Heart Association is going to promote drinking milk. He even talked about the whole milk campaign. Right. Remember the milk mustache?
The milk mustache. The milk does a body good. Got milk. Not just milk, but the whole concept of breakfast.
Yes.
Right? These are powerful industries,
right,
who are telling us that breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Right.
In a society where overconsumption is the norm, and they telling you, get your bacon, get your sausages, get your grits, chicken feet, get your...
No, you didn't say
toast.
Chicken feet.
You know what I mean?
Who eating chicken feet for breakfast, dude?
But this is the I'm glad you brought that up. This is the lobbying group, and think about this as well. The steroids, the growth hormones
that they use,
the
antibiotics
that they put in milk, and that we're giving our growing babies. We're giving them steroids. We're giving them antibiotics. You wonder why they develop such a immunity to local antibiotics, they've been getting low doses of it ever since they were kids. And still, the cheese, and the various meat products, and our young girls are prematurely getting their menstrual cycles. Milk, the hormones in milk are instructions for a baby cow to grow, to be 300 pounds at 1 year old. But now we're getting these same instructions in the milk. The hormones that's in a cow's milk for a baby calf, is that what it is, calf? These are instructions for that calf to get big and strong very quickly.
Which is why I'm a very, very big proponent of breastfeeding.
Absolutely.
Because, I think that a lot of the vanity has taken over, especially with younger mothers. There's this thought, oh, I don't want my boobs to sag.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's like the vanity part takes over, but I don't think enough emphasis from our community, from the Black and brown communities, have been put on. I mean, there's been a lot of emphasis from other communities that have been placed on us, but we already know how that feels. But within the community, we need to put more emphasis on the breastfeeding part, because like you said, those are the instructions. Like, our breast milk has antibodies. It has everything. I mean, just think about it. Like, you can breastfeed.
You are downloading the instructions to your child.
Exactly.
Through that milk.
Exactly. Like, you can literally breastfeed, like, for up to 5. Like, that's everything that your child needs. I mean, it's similar to other animals, right?
It's true.
Like, a baby calf drinks its mother's milk, and that's all.
That's it.
It's not looking for, oh, by the way, when I turn 1, I'm ready for that human milk.
Right. I'm going to find me a monkey.
Right.
Or
right.
A gorilla. But let's talk about this too.
Hey, Pie says, good morning. Breast is best whenever possible. I agree. I like that. We're going to coin that, Pie.
I like that,
Breast
Pie.
is best.
We need that on a shirt, Pie.
Yes. But,
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is there a socioeconomic component to breastfeeding?
It's very cheap because it's free 99. Okay,
It's free 99.
It's free 99. Now, I will tell you that the detriment, not the detriments, but I think the things work against breastfeeding is when mothers have to return to work, and you don't have a lot of companies that have built into their policies that allow for moms to pump at different times, which is funny to me, because you allow somebody to go on like 80 million cigarette breaks, but
that's a fact.
But let a mom want to use a closet to pump her breasts and pump her milk. I think that, and then the image, like if a woman's out in public, and there's ways that you can breastfeed without showing people. I think we need to normalize that. We need to normalize a mom being able to breastfeed her child. It's free 99. What women don't realize is that is another way to get yourself back in shape. I remember when I was breastfeeding, I would literally feel my uterus contracting.
What?
Yes. Like, breastfeeding is a way to get that uterus and that stomach back in. Like, I used to literally feel my uterus contracting. Like,
so are you saying that's a way to get the snatch back?
Yes, that's helpful.
Wow.
That's helpful, because that's telling your body that there's nothing down there. I mean, that's helpful.
Wow.
There's a lot of benefits to breastfeeding. Just think about all the antibodies that you carry that you can pass on to your child to help them, because they're too young to get vaccinated. They're too young. I mean, they're vulnerable. They're open. So that breast milk is life. Breast milk is life.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Let me ask you another question then. What if the mama's diet is all wrong?
So there are things, and I do remember, when I was breastfeeding, there are things that they do tell you to avoid, because it can cause little issues in the children. Like, they used to tell you avoid onions because it can cause, gas and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I think that should be used as an incentive, right? If you know that you're feeding your child whatever it is, like,
that you're eating.
Like, I used to, after a while, you want to get a glass of wine. So what I would do is I would drink my glass of wine, and then I would dump that next set of milk, because I don't want to feed my baby what.
You don't want
Right. So it is an art. There is a science to it, but yeah, you're right. Like, for the most part, but whatever it is, let's just say that your diet is like completely, it's going to show up,
Okay. Right. That's
because
what
there's certain things that you would eat that would then give the baby gas or things like that. But it really is about putting that child first, and I think that we need to
That's a
normalize
fact.
that. I think companies need to normalize, mothers and parents supporting the health of their children.
That is a fact.
I agree.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree. And then, and if I'm not mistaken, there were studies out that show that children who have been breastfed show up as being more intelligent than
That, and overall, a lot of breastfed babies, especially earlier on, have more normal weight. So there's a lot of benefits to breastfeeding, but I think that, like I said, I feel like the whole context is the community, the work life, everything has to support it because it's difficult.
right.
Especially if you're a working mom, especially if you don't have the luxury of sitting at home for 6 months or whatever it is.
True.
It's really hard, but I think that with support outside of the household, like I said, workplaces normalizing it. I remember when I first became pregnant, I was working in Polk County. I was working for the health department over there. And actually in the middle of my pregnancy, I ended up transferring my job back to Pinellas County. But one of the things in Polk County at their health department that they instituted, which I love, was that you could bring your child to work, your baby, your newborn. Let's just say that you did your initial 6 weeks or whatever because you have to recover. You can bring your child to work for up to a year with you as long as you were breastfeeding. Now, granted, and I think it was actually great for a lot of people that participate. I've seen people that participated in it when I was there. This is before I got pregnant, where it almost becomes a community where you had your coworkers supporting you. Hey, you got a meeting to go through. Okay, just wheel the baby in here and I'll, watch it for you while you go to your meeting. It becomes a community because they felt in their work environment that breastfeeding was important, even for their workers, even for those people who couldn't sit at home or, now when I did move to Pinellas and I did start working here after I had my kid, they were very supportive in allowing me time to in room to pump. So I was able to do that. But yeah, it's difficult, but we need to get more people involved in that.
And what about legislative? Like you said, you work for the health department. I'm quite sure that they had a lot of legislative measures geared towards, that kind of time that you could that they allowed you to bond with your baby.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain.
What about other jobs?
See, that I don't know, and that's why I said across the board it has to be, because I don't know for somebody that may work at Walmart.
Right.
Or
right.
for somebody that might work for a for-profit private organization, what their policies are. But I think it has to be supported across the board, I think the other thing that, and just to kind of go back, because we talked a little bit about Michelle Obama, and during her time as the first lady, her project, because every first lady has a project, her project was really to sort of normalize health and nutrition within kids. Like she really tackled childhood obesity. But I think that one of the things that we've seen kind of go by the wayside is even PE.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Let's just talk about how over the last 30 or so, I'm going to say 40 years, over the last 40 years, how the curriculum in school has been less about life skills and more about teaching you how to be an employee, which is what I think.
That's a fact.
Like, what happened to shop class? What happened to home economics? What happened to having PE every single day?
Listen, I had home economics. I had typewriting.
They don't even teach kids how to write in cursive anymore.
They don't.
They're failing them.
They don't. Life skills, and let me tell you something about home. What I appreciated about home ec. We cooked. Not only cooked, balance a checkbook. Right? Incoming versus outcoming when it comes to money. I mean, it was life skills, you know.
Right.
But like you said, they teaching now. It's just like, yo, get a job.
Get a job.
You try to pass this test so you can get a job.
So you can get a job.
That's crazy.
But it doesn't teach you how to live.
It doesn't.
Right.
It teaches you how to survive.
It teaches you how to survive.
Go from paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy because kids now hate PE. It's like one of the most hated classes. And like you said, they're only doing it only once. I remember going to PE every day. Every day. I remember when I was growing up in elementary and junior high school in New York. I went to a K through 8 school. So, we were there. We knew each other from the time we were in kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade. Facts.
And I remember not only having gym class, that's what we called it, gym class.
Right.
You had gym. I not only remember having gym, but I remember, when the weather was nice outside, even when the weather was, as long as it wasn't snowing or raining, during lunch, you were allowed to go outside.
That's a fact.
Like you had maybe some kids that sat in the cafeteria because they were like wanting to play chess. We had a little spades group that sat inside, but even the spades group sometimes sat outside.
Exactly. You wanted to go outside.
We had basketball hoops on our playground.
That's right.
We had a little makeshift baseball diamond that we used to play kickball on.
Exactly.
We had, double dutch was the thing. Any extension cord would do.
Double dutch.
I mean, you would literally bring your rope to school and you had double dutch tournaments. I mean, everything was a game to us. Everything was a game to us. And I mean, the only time we stayed inside was if it was snowing or raining. I mean, I don't care if it was cold outside. You could still go bundled up and everything. You still went outside. We played tag, freeze tag with no bases.
Exactly.
You were running for days.
Game out of everything.
Yeah.
I remember playing stick ball. We used to go to the supermarket, grab a broomstick, put the electrical tape around it, and play stick ball because we didn't have the baseball bats.
Shanique says we now have 10-minute recess, which is usually inside next to their desk. It's a shame, and it's a real shame, especially living here in Florida, knowing how beautiful the weather is, that these kids, like my daughter, I won't say what school she goes to, but they don't have a playground. Like they don't have so her lunch is in the cafeteria. You go to the cafeteria and you sit and eat. I remember we used to have lunch, and it was like, let's see how fast you can eat your food just so you can go outside. And some people used to skip lunch because they just wanted to be outside.
That's crazy.
Not to say that was the greatest, or what they would do is they would get their lunch, put it aside, play, and then eat when they was on their way to the next class.
Wait a minute, 10-minute recess at the desk?
10-minute recess.
Inside.
Doesn't that sound crazy?
That is crazy.
I just think about how much time I spent outside playing. You were naming all the games. Mother May I, red light, green light. Like I said, we used to play tag with no bases. So
exactly,
if you ain't got no bases, that means you're doing a lot of running. Dodgeball. Dodgeball was the game to play.
Oh my God, you had those
hopscotch,
Scalesy, jacks.
I mean, we used to make up. Growing up in Brooklyn, and for those of you who are 80s babies, you remember the Goonies. You remember that movie, The Goonies?
The Goonies, yeah.
And they were like, a ragtag group of kids, and they went on this little adventure. So there was like this. So we had this alley behind the houses, And, it was a lot of different obstacles to get from one house down the street. You can come out. So we used to call it our Goonie adventure. This is how crazy we were, right? We used to call it our Goonie adventure.
Right.
So we used to go and we used to race each other. Okay, so two of y'all got to go through the alley, through all these hoops. I mean, we're talking about tires. You got to climb fences. You got to just to go 5-6 houses down and come out the other side. Like, that was the game to play.
Hey, listen, let me tell you something. You ain't never heard of nothing like this. You talking about games that we made up in the hood.
Yes.
We used to turn on the water fountain, full steam ahead.
Yes.
And the water would come down the street, down the block like a river, and we would race sticks. You remember the cracker and cheese thing that used to buy at the store?
Yeah, with the little thin
red,
pretzel.
the little red thing, right?
Yeah.
We used to shave that down to a sharp point, drop it in the water, give our sticks names, Jaws 1, Jaws 2, and we would race from the top of the hill all the way to the bottom where it would pool up. This is the games we would play.
Yeah.
Listen, we were talking about just today you mentioned it earlier, going through tires. Listen, we were doing gymnastics on mattresses in the hood.
Listen, I used to have, we used to roller skate a lot in my neighborhood. And so, but that was the thing. We were on bikes whenever we wanted to be. We were on roller skates. We would jump and rope. But I remember we used to...
no helmet, no knee pads.
Right, and we survived.
Put that out there, son.
We used to be on roller skates. And back then, the ice capades were big. So we used to pretend like we were in the ice capades. We had whole routines that we would create on roller skates, like we were in
wild. That's
like
wild.
we were in the ice. But that's the type of stuff that you did in the hood because none of us was going to the ice capades, but we were going to create it. You don't see in the commercials enough to know what they should look like.
We wasn't. You talk about flipping on mattresses. I'm talking about Olympic style.
Yes.
Jumping off the second story of a building onto a mattress, doing a double tuck. You know what I mean?
Yes. Not a double tuck.
The double tuck into a front semi. Listen, but you see how now that's art now?
Right.
They call it, what they call it when they jumping on stuff?
I don't know.
I see it on the
skateboarding.
Skateboarding. We used to have a thing called Dead Man's Hill.
We had a Dead Man's Hill.
It went straight down.
We used to roller skate down there.
I'm talking about into an intersection, past an intersection.
Ours led to a closed garage door.
So, listen, that's why I'm like...
And you had to turn real quick or else you'd be plastered on the door.
No, it's no more of that now.
It's no more of that, which is
It's
why
the
we're
games.
seeing, increased rates of children being obese, which, like I said, lead to adults being obese.
Exactly.
We're having younger and younger kids on medications.
That's crazy. When I was doing the kids fit camp, at one point in time, they were babies who were already hypertensive.
Wow.
8, 9 years old, and pre-diabetic, hypertensive. And the thing is, I want to say this too. A lot of times, the parents thought that they were just being good parents by giving into what the kids wanted. Mom, I want McDonald's. No, I don't want that. I don't want that orange. I don't want that. I don't want that. And crying and throwing tantrums, and and then when they get to McDonald's, they are, soothed. And the crazy thing too that I thought about at one point in time is the addiction. Mm-hmm. The addiction to high fructose corn syrup, the chemicals that they put in this food. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, they, the parents were thinking they were doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. They was like, it is French fries, it is potato, mm-hmm. it is cheese on a cheeseburger. Mm-hmm. Notwithstanding the whole red meat. Well, that's a whole nother show we can dive into about meat eaters versus vegans versus whatever. But they actually thought that they were just doing the right thing,
right?
Being good parents,
right?
Let me just, get my child this, full. And the thing is too, one more thing is that dense calories versus empty calories. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And why a lot of times people are not satiated from eating these bad foods
Right.
because they are empty calories.
Yes.
You know, and it triggers your brain into still being releasing hormones, to still being hungry, Gotta eat, gotta eat, gotta eat. And next thing you know, you don't put on 20, 30 pounds.
So I do want to say, because we brought this up before, and then I got a question that one of the viewers has, but I do want to bring up, a lot of times, we have to put ourselves as a community in a different mind frame, right? Everything that's marketed towards us isn't necessarily good for us. It's good for somebody's pockets.
True that.
So when you talk about things like high fructose corn syrup, we need to think about there's a whole group of foods, and I kid you not, and I don't have my list here, but we talked about it. I know of 2 off the top of my head. There's a list of different foods and products that, while we advertise them and market them freely here in the United States, they're actually banned in other countries.
Banned, can't
like
come in.
One of which is Frosted Flakes.
It's a fact.
Banned in some other countries because of the content and the fact that the content of it has been known through studies to cause bad adverse health effects. Swiss rolls, the little Debbie cakes,
crazy,
banned in other countries because of the fact that it includes yellow number 5.
Yellow number 5.
Things that we know have killed rats.
Exactly.
And have caused like kidney disease. So there's a lot of different foods like that are, marketed here that we think, oh, okay, like, let's just be honest, just because they market it towards you doesn't mean that it's good for you. And we need to be.
It's a fact.
So my thing is, there's nothing wrong with eating a whole potato, like a real potato.
Right.
Like a potato that's out of the ground.
Right.
It's like a real potato.
A real one.
As opposed to eating
a manipulated one.
I think that one of the things that was on the list was like instant mashed potatoes, the ones in the box.
Instant.
Because it included, again, certain ingredients that have been known to either cause cancer or cause some type of detrimental health effect that they've banned in other countries. So I think that one of the things that we really need to do is get back to whole food eating.
That's a fact.
So instead of getting instant mashed potatoes, buying some real potatoes,
get a real one,
and make your mashed potatoes.
Do they do that anymore? Do people make their own mashed potatoes anymore?
I don't know. I baked some potatoes the other day, though. They were really good. Mm-hmm. So I do have a question. We have Fatima, who says, during that time, the community was stronger. How do we reconnect the community so that the children now can experience this?
Great question.
I'm gonna let you have that.
Fatima, first, hi. Thank you for listening in. And Fatima, I've often asked myself that question. It seemed like just, to me, I don't know if anybody else experiences this, but it just feels like things are just slipping away. Mm-hmm. Community is not community anymore. I think we have to, reverse engineer a lot of things that's been happening to us in our community. I think there is a war going on out there, and I think that they're not pulling out any stops, especially the psychological warfare. You talked about, the image. So it's a hard question for team. I think we have to reverse engineer things that's been going on in our community. Everything that they have used to separate us, just like we talked about earlier, the making of a hood, right? When they come around and they say, this is going to be a hood, how we going to make a hood, what we going to put in there? So they say, we're going to put a liquor store, right? Check cashing place.
Couple churches.
A
lot of convenience stores.
Got to throw in the Chinese restaurant.
Yes.
Okay.
At least one or two.
A
couple chicken joints.
Right.
At least one or two.
No whole food spots. So maybe we have to get back. We have to buy the block back. we have to get into gardening. This is one thing that they've used against us is to making us think that, getting our hands dirty, getting in the dirt is somehow a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
But getting back to planting foods.
Right.
And bringing that home to the dinner table. You know what I mean?
100.
So
100.
I think that there's a few places like that we can start.
I think that we also need to. I think one of the things that we can do right now today is change our mind frame about how we look at food.
True.
And how we look at my thing is I don't think that anybody outside of our community can be responsible for our health and well-being.
Absolutely not.
And especially and I say that for your household too. Like,
absolutely.
Whoever's the head of the household, you are responsible for the health and well-being of the people inside your household.
And normally who is that, the man or the woman?
Either one, whoever that is. It might be grandma, might be daddy, might be mama, because, we live in blended families. We have extended families. Sometimes you have 2-3 generations under a roof. And we talked about this, about the soul food and those kind of things. But being aware, because, even though we talk about the soul food doesn't have to necessarily be bad.
That's right.
Right? So there's a way to make the soul food. But we do have to realize that a lot of the things that are marketed towards us are not good for us. They're good for somebody's pockets.
That's right.
And sometimes
for the most part, yeah.
Right. And you have to think about, okay, what is this doing to me? What is it that I want to see? I think that I do want to revisit this topic about childhood obesity, because I think that there's a lot of layers about just children as they grow up and the type of adults that they become. But I think that this was like a good opening for just really understanding that,
it should be treated with the utmost of urgency.
It should. Absolutely. 100%. It should be treated as an emergent disease that should be very important, because these are the kids that are going to grow up. And, I just want to say something real quick about, you said about the breakfast, because we only got about a minute left. I want to thank everybody for joining in. But you said about the breakfast, and you were like, yeah, put a good breakfast. And so you send these kids off to school with their belly fulls. And guess what's happening for the first couple hours? Their body is so busy digesting that food, they got foggy brain. They're not paying attention.
Exactly.
So we really need to go back to the basics of understanding how the body works and what's good for us. Not necessarily people telling us, but really understanding, because, as melanated people, black and browns, we function just a little bit differently. We have certain risk factors and things that we should probably stay away from.
We do.
And
that's a fact.
And that is a fact.
And that's why this can go, this is a good opening. And it could go on, I think we should do another one on this.
We will.
Because this is, the rabbit hole is deep on this.
For real. And we got like 30 seconds left, so we're going to sign off. I want to appreciate everybody for tuning in.
Appreciate you.
And we'll be back next Sunday.
Thank you, James.
Make sure that you come in.
Pie.
Yes, Darius,
I see you. Come see me, son.
Yes, every day I ask him.
Come
All right,
see me,
y'all.
son.
We're going to head out.